Well, to get an informed insight on the current state of affairs, I'm now joined by Gershon Baskin, the Middle East Director for the International Communities Organization. And Gershon is also a former hostage negotiator himself. Gershon, this latest attack, obviously, it's a lot of soldiers of Israel, but it all happened in one moment. But where does this put them in terms of the IDF and vulnerability, could we say?
Well, we're engaged in the most intensive urban warfare right now. Israel's war has pushed most of Gaza's population into the south of the Gaza Strip, and that's where the IDF is launching its offensive now. There are roughly 2 million people in the south of the Gaza Strip right now with nowhere to go, as one of the Palestinians said. Israel informed people in Khan Yunis today that they should head toward the southwest corner of the Gaza Strip, an area called Moasi. But there isn't much room there left. People have already established tents and put them up there. And of course, now the bulk of the Hamas fighters are in the tunnels and the bunkers underneath the southern part of the Gaza Strip. And we're dealing with urban guerrilla warfare, which is very difficult for a regular army to contest with.
Now, does it change anything that Israel says it has surrounded Khan Yunis at this point in time in terms of tactics? I mean, where do you see the war and the offensive progressing from here?
We have to understand that the war is not only above ground. The main war is perhaps underground, and there's a massive network of tunnels and bunkers, multi-layered, going down 50, 60, 70 meters underneath the top of the soil of the Khan Yunis area, the Rafah area in the south of the Gaza Strip. That's where the Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters are. That's where probably the leadership is hiding out and waiting to combat the Israelis. That's probably where most of the Israeli hostages are being held as well.
And now let's go back to this report, this IDF announcement of the soldiers being killed. It comes at a time where Axios, the US publication, has announced that Israel could be willing to negotiate a ceasefire with Hamas, mediated by Qatar and Egypt. But it is dependent very much on hostage negotiations and prisoner releases, all of that. Is there hope that there could be a ceasefire in the coming weeks?
There is an open door now. Finally, Israel took some initiative and put down a plan or a proposal for a 2-month ceasefire and an exchange of Palestinian prisoners, the number that we don't know, or the personalities of those prisoners have not been disclosed, in exchange for all of the Israeli hostages. There are 136 hostages. Israel believes that about 95 of them are still alive. The others have been killed either by Israeli bombs or by being executed by Hamas. It's very unlikely that Hamas will agree to release all the hostages in exchange for a 2-month ceasefire and without knowing who the prisoners are who are going to be released. But it is a beginning of negotiations, and I think it's a good development because Israel has taken the initiative and has given the mediators something to work with now. Pressure has to be put on Hamas in order to agree to something that we know that Hamas wants a total end of the war, an Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and a release of all prisoners in Israel in exchange for all the hostages, and Israel is not yet prepared for that deal.
And what has the reaction been like from government? Because obviously with these deaths mounting up for the IDF, but also the longer the hostages are held by Hamas, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's surely got to be feeling some pressure, more pressure as the days go on.
There is more pressure mounting on Netanyahu, but Netanyahu knows that he needs to prolong the war as long as possible, because the day that the war ends is the day that he will begin to have to face the Israeli public and take responsibility, the failures that led us to October 7th. The failures on October 7th and everything that led to it by Netanyahu's own strategy of weakening the Palestinian Authority and empowering Hamas. So Netanyahu's political career is on the line here. So he has a reason for prolonging the war, because the people of Israel seem to want this war to be over before we go to new elections. But eventually that's what will happen. The hostage families are building pressure. They're calling for the government to make a deal to bring their loved ones home under the slogan that the war can wait Israel can wait to get rid of Sinwar and Deif and the other Hamas leaders, but the hostages, every day that they stay in Gaza is a risk to their lives, as we've seen more and more of them being killed.
Gershon, thank you so much for your thoughts. As Gershon Baskin, the Middle East Director for the International Communities Organization, coming to us from Jerusalem.